Welcome to Gold Derby. I'm senior editor Denton Davidson here with Holly Waddington, the costume designer for Poor Things. Holly, congratulations on this film. It's gotten such great response, and the costumes are certainly a huge component of creating this fantasy on the screen. It's a period piece, but not totally specific. I mean, you sort of had some leeway, but what was your influence, I guess, in your design for this film?
So thank you. Um, Hello, Denton. My influence, I mean, there were many influences really for the design of film. Um, I was casting my net really quite widely. I looked at a lot of things. I was looking a lot at the clothes of the 19th century, the late 19th century, particularly the textures of them. I was looking at a lot of fashion from different parts of the 20th century and before. I was looking at a lot of different things.
And so I mean, you had the leeway to sort of mix fabrics and styles without being constricted to an era because we're really sort of in Bella's world. It's set in a time, but it's really what's happening in her mind from her point of view.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest job really on Poor Things was about trying to sort of tell this story, this very particular story of this evolving person, Bella Baxter. And that, really the choices of materials and the choices of shapes were less about kind of fulfilling some kind of idea about a period in time and more about how best to describe this character arc and this how best to kind of describe what was going on with her emotionally, physically, in terms of her development. So I was given artistic license to sort of pick and mix. Really, I was looking at all sorts of different things, but whilst I was sort of suspending the silhouette of the costumes in the late 19th century, I was really also quite liberated in being able to kind of change the shapes of things and play with things and experiment a bit. Um, I think what I was really doing ultimately is trying to sort of serve this story.
And
Ultimately,
what is working with Yorgos Lanthimos like? I mean, is he pretty involved in every detail? Does he really get into those discussions about costume, or is he sort of hands off, like you do your thing and I'll say yes, no? What was that dynamic like?
I mean, he's very involved in the costume design. He was very involved in every decision, actually. Down to like help, like wanting to be involved in like choosing a shade of a particular. There's this mango yellow that he wanted in the film, and I gave him 20 shades of mango yellow, and he absolutely kind of knew which one he wanted to use. He's both very he's both incredibly collaborative and wants to know about everything, whilst not at all being blocking or restrictive. So it's a very freeing process to work with Yorgos Lanthimos. He's very trusting of his collaborators. He has a lot of respect for the creative process for each different discipline, which is very special. He, you can offer him a very scratchy sketch and he'll get straight away what you're after or what you're trying to communicate. So he's very good at understanding, the smallest articulation of an idea. He just gets it, and he is also he's quietly steering the process. I would say it isn't at all demonstrative or prescriptive what he does. He's sort of allowing a lot of creative freedom whilst kind of gently steering this kind of massive juggernaut of a job around very skillfully.
That first scene when the film opens, we see Emma Stone in this beautiful blue dress. It's a very striking way to open the movie. She feels high society, high class, but we have no idea who this woman is. How important was that opening look for you, and what was the inspiration behind that specific dress?
Well, interestingly, I didn't know that would be the opening look.
Oh,
That is not scripted. You know, the film actually, as I read the script, opens with the piano scene. So this is something that was happened in, you know, in post production. So but I was delighted, you know, that it is the opening of the film. You know, so the person that Bella Baxter was before she was reanimated, um, was married to was a very unhappily married person, married to an army general, and so the two dresses from that person's wardrobe were, I wanted to have a very different quality, or very different qualities, to the things that I dressed Bella Baxter in. And so that dress is, you know, it's the shape of it is, you know, she's had, first of all, to say that she's heavily pregnant in that dress. So it is a maternity dress, but I wanted it to almost look like a suit of armor. So the detailing on the sleeves and the size of it, it's all taken from a reference that I saw of a dress that to me looked like you know, almost like medieval armor sleeves, you know, with these kind of articulated shapes. So that's what I was thinking, and it seemed to be like completely incongruous and at odds with the idea of a maternity dress, to have these kind of really stiff folds and pleats. And the color was very significant. And that blue is really quite toxic, complex, deep, just quite a sort of particular shade of cobalt blue, peacock blue, that I felt was just rich and quite complex and quite a sophisticated color. And again, very at odds with the colors that I use on Bella, which are joyful and light and, you know, bright.
yeah, there were a lot of blues and yellows. Was that the color palette you really wanted for Bella?
I mean, I was responding with the colors to the spaces, mainly to the environment. So the palette in Lisbon is a lot of blues, like very not duck eggy, like almost like the colors of those like sugared almonds. It's very technicolor, I think. You know, the yellows that I was using were very soft and um, you know, soft and quite childlike still. And the blues are very, you know, sort of almost like 1950s Technicolor colors. You know, that's the first time that she sees the world, and yeah, the whole thing is just like a sort of explosion of color. But then really yellow was the color that I was focusing on for Bella Baxter. You know, it's the color of, you know, it's a joyful color. It's the color of sunflowers, sunshine, and it's also really combined with the black hair. The black and the yellow is, you know, they are nature's warning colors, which for me felt quite sort of like quite a good idea to use for her, because while she isn't dangerous, there's just, you know, she is a beacon. She is, you know, you can't ignore her.
And her aesthetic, I mean, she's this young child in a woman's body. Her clothing is very frilly and girl-like. I was curious, like from your perspective, were you ever thinking about who's dressing Bella? Who gets her dressed? Who's buying her clothes?
Yeah. Yeah, so to do the job, I kind of have to make a story up about everything to give myself parameters and a route through what I'm doing. So my story to myself was that she was being dressed by Mrs. Prim, the housemaid, played by Vicky Papadine. So, you know, she's getting her dressed in the morning, but the person who really is buying these or organizing these beautiful clothes is Baxter, because Mrs. Prim doesn't really seem to like Bella very much. She resents her role with Bella, and but Baxter adores her and cherishes her. And I felt like he would have probably had these clothes made for her by a local seamstress, you know, lovely things that were very luxurious and comfortable to wear, not too restrictive, in quite childlike fabrics, not too childlike, but childlike enough to sort of respect, you know, where she was at in her development.
And what was Emma like as a collaborator? And she's a producer on this film as well. So what was it like to work with her on all of these different looks that she takes on?
I mean,
What a
just
performance by her too. I mean, the costuming had to help her get into
yeah.
the character.
I mean, she's just a force. She's just a sort of joy, like really fun to work with, really uninhibited, very smart, very quick-witted, just very quick to respond to things. Like I think she just operates on a, she works very quickly, and I think she's just very smart. So she often is mostly concerned with the idea. So she wants to know why I'm thinking certain things, and for her it's about getting that. If that's watertight for her, then that's fine. Less interested in whether she looks good, which was very refreshing. Um, she was very playful in the fitting room. Very happy to explore ideas, just to take, just to kind of embrace everything really that I threw at her. Not threw at her, but every idea she was, you know, open to, and very playful. We had a great fitting early on in Athens where we were in the pandemic. It's very hard to see the actors until very close to the date that we started filming, and I had this arrangement to meet Emma in a hotel in Athens, and we just spent the afternoon dressing up, and it was really from that fitting that I was able to create this jigsaw puzzle of Bella's journey, and it was great fun.
The dresses and the big things always get the most attention, but you also have some really cool menswear. Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe, Rami Youssef. I'll have this incredible style, and then Jared Carmichael comes along with something completely different later. Talk about the menswear and what that was like to create for these four actors and their varying styles.
Yeah, so I was trying to give them all a different handling, different treatment. Mark Ruffalo's character Duncan was really inspired by those satirical cartoons of the late 19th century, where you've got these very sort of pompous British, society establishment men wearing these, tailoring, and they've often got these very distorted body shapes with pumped out chests and quite sort of curvaceous bodies. I just wanted to play on that. So I did approach his costume from the perspective of his physicality mostly. So we spent ages having body padding made for his chest, he had thigh padding to make him more rounded and curvaceous. And we made this pad that sat on his chest to give him more of an S-bend, and he wore a corset. Some of those ideas were simmered down because once we got on to the camera test, it was looking a little bit sort of panto. We had to calm it all down a bit. But that was the starting point to sort of work from the inside with him, from the sort of body shape. And he was just incredibly generous and hilarious to work with. Lovely. Really collaborative. Willem Dafoe's character, I wanted to give Baxter this sort of modernity to his clothes. I wanted them, when he was stepped outside of his incredible home, I wanted him to blend in really well with all the other, traditional Victorian tailoring. But when he was in the home, I wanted him to have this series of boiler suits where, it's just one piece and it's very utopian. It's kind of like a form of like sort of almost like futurist fashion. And that was inspired by looking at some of the garments being created by the surrealists and the futurists who, in the early 20th century were like putting everyone in boiler suits with pockets. And so, yeah, and he also, incredibly collaborative in the fitting room. Lots of, it's always a collaboration with actors doing costumes. Rami's Max, character Max, he's, the conceit of his costume is that he hasn't got any money. He's from a poor family. The suit's a bit off. It doesn't quite fit him very well. It's got these weird sleeves. He's being mocked by these posh toffs in his medical school who ridicule his clothes. So, and then there was a costume journey for him because by the end of the film he's in a proper suit. And Jared's character Harry, I slightly tilted him into a slightly couple of decades later. I pushed him into the 1920s, just because I felt that he and Martha represent the they're progressive, they represent the future, and they represent the future for her, for Bella, and where she's going to go. And I was able to play like that. You know, this was a project where that was okay to do that kind of thing.
That's the most fun of it, I think. It's just you never know, like the visual of the cinematography, the production design, and the costumes all just coming together in such an interesting way. What were your thoughts when you saw the final cut of the film for the first time and you saw all of that work come together on screen?
Yeah, I was just blown away by it, really. It was just stunning. Just the, you know, just the whole, I loved how the costumes work with the spaces. And I think even in the after, like in all of the work that Yorgos and his team did afterwards, I think so much went on there, you know, in terms of like balancing colors and grading and all of these things, you know, even like on the boat, you know, the smoke that's pumping out of the ship, you know, that violet color just worked so well with this kiwi green that we put Bella in, you know. So those sorts of decisions, lots of those things were done afterwards, you know, when our work was finished. You know, there's a lot of very careful, particularly color work that went on that sort of really brought it all together. So it was, yeah, it's
What
been, yeah. Sorry.
what led you into costume designing? I mean, did you have a passion for fashion? Was it always for film or theater? I mean, what led you
All of
down this
that.
path?
Yeah, all of that. I've always been really, really quite passionately interested in clothes and fashion. Yes, fashion, but more kind of like the meaning of clothes, what they say, and that led me to costume. You know, I'm also very interested in theatre and have worked a lot in the theatre, and I really like dance and follow dance and worked a lot with dancers. So I'm sort of interested in performance and stories, but you know, that what led me into it, I think, was I went to art school, and I spent a lot of time making sets and costumes, and you know, basically doing a sort of form of theatre design. And I was encouraged to go and explore theatre design and costume design, and that's what I did. And it was really the right world for me. Just brings
Well,
together all the things that I like doing and
it
thinking about.
certainly turned out well, and we're grateful for that career choice and this film and just how beautiful it is. I was in a theater watching it with people. I've seen it twice, and both times everyone in the theater was just sort of gasping and hot chattering after the movie, like what did we just see? So there's a lot of excitement around this movie. Opens December 8th. Everyone can go check it out. And Holly, congratulations and thanks for
So
chatting
much.
with both
Thank
of me
you.
today.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you. Thank you.